Superheroes reign unchecked, and the mega corporations they work for constantly cover up their indiscretions. Few will stand in defense of the weak. Only the Spice Girls can save us now. Welcome to Every Show Ever. I'm Ken, and my mission is to watch every show. Ever. So that you don't have to. Today I'm joined by Phoebe and Jake.
I'm Phoebe, and I have seen all of The Boys. Only once, though. Pretty sure you and Jake have seen it more than once.
I've only seen it twice. I watched it once with Jake and once with Jake and Esteban.
I'm Jake. I've seen it 3 times now, so I guess I have no life.
You watched it once with each of us.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure it's one of his favorite shows.
Oh, it's definitely...
Oh, it doesn't even come close to The Witcher in how many times you've watched it.
I've seen The Witcher 26 times. There's nothing will come close to that, but...
Insanity.
He had to lose Netflix to slow that number down.
It was probably for the best.
So, The Boys is sort of this, like, rated R DC / X-Men, I would say, because it's like, but it's taking place in our world, which is the most interesting part. It's like, what if superheroes really existed? But with, like, the grim, dark twist, but it's not grim dark, it's more like dark comedy.
Yeah, it's there's very much that dark comedy element where every horrific thing that happens is somehow also played for laughs, and it works.
But it's also like, if superheroes existed, they would be corrupt. Like, if superheroes existed,
just like anyone in a position of power.
Right, capitalism would use them for evil, and that's the show.
Oh, this is why I'm Team Batman. Superman can't be trusted.
He cannot. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And also fuck Homelander.
He is the worst.
Homelander.
So we have the Seven, which is like the Justice League. And they're really specifically the Justice League. Because like Homelander is Superman.
But also Captain America a bit.
Yeah. Black Noir is
Batman.
The Deep is Aquaman. Lamplighter is
Green Lantern.
Queen Maeve is Wonder Woman. And A-Train is the Flash. So they're all like very clear parallels being drawn here.
Translucent's the only one who doesn't really have a counterpart.
Oh. Poor Translucent.
we don't care.
We don't care. I hate Translucent.
Sucks to be Translucent.
He's a perv. It
For
sucks to be
reasons.
anyone who's around Translucent.
True.
I like when whenever he's sitting in a room and he just has glasses on, and so all you see are the glasses.
They're just floating
That's
there.
my favorite thing about Translucent.
But those aren't the main characters. We should say those aren't the main characters. These are sort of like our cast of villains. And so the Flash, A-Train, runs through the main character's girlfriend. Like, while she's standing on, like, one step off the sidewalk, he accidentally blows through her and she explodes. And it's horrifying. And he, like, pulls one of her teeth out of his mouth. It's, like, the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. She just, like, explodes into a...
This is like
everywhere.
The first
3
5
minutes
minutes
into
of the
pilot.
show, for context.
Yeah. They very much... It's also written by created by Eric Kripke, so of course I'm going to love it. But, like, Kripke definitely wants you to know right off the bat, you're in for a ride.
Buckle your seatbelts, kids.
And it's disgusting. So it's sort of Huey, this guy's whose girlfriend exploded. It's Huey's journey to, like, getting revenge. Revenge, justice.
Yeah, same thing.
Especially when you get to work with Karl Urban.
Oh, Karl Urban.
He is a delight. This isn't a spoiler, but he does this weird accent in the show. Slightly off tangent, but...
I mentioned that when we were watching it together, and I was like, this is going to sound like a criticism of the show, but it isn't. I just couldn't figure out where he was from. Because, like, accent work is kind of my hobby right now. And I'm like, is he supposed to be British? Because, like, the first time that he shows up and does something really badass, London Calling by The Clash is playing. And that's, like, cool. But he also keeps referring to people as cunts. And he's very Australian through the whole thing. And isn't Karl Urban from
New Zealand?
He's from New Zealand. So I'm like, is he a New Zealander trying to do an Australian accent? Or is he a New Zealander trying to do a British accent, but failing in sounding Australian? Like, what is he supposed to be? And I don't think we're supposed to know at this point.
And I mean, in a sense,
it doesn't matter.
I think part of, like, I guess the joke of it, because they kind of, like, hit on it, like, nobody seems to know where he's from in the show. like people refer to him and they point out the accent on numerous occasions, and they refer to him as being from England, and they refer to him as being from Australia at different points for different people. So I think part of it is that nobody knows where he's from, and he's kind of just mysterious. But it was definitely hard to nail down.
Yeah, and then there's the cast of like supporting characters is filled out by Frenchie and Mother's Milk, who are also amazing.
I did not expect to love Frenchie as much as I did.
He's
so
great.
Cute. He's so cute.
He became just like, I was like, if anything bad happens to Frenchie, I will break something.
Frenchie is like the chaotic neutral that we all need in every show. He's like chaotic neutral with a heart of gold, and that's why I love him. He's so tiny.
So very small.
And it's even made worse, like, I guess not worse, but like how small he is. Because he's next to Carl Urban, Mother's Milk, who is played by, I don't remember the actor's name, but he is just an enormous human being. And then Huey, who's like he's probably like the smallest one. He's like 6'3" or something. So he's next to all these giant men. So he just looks so tiny.
Isn't Huey played by Pierce Brosnan's kid or somebody?
It's
Dennis Quaid.
Son,
Oh,
yeah.
it's the guy I always confuse.
I don't know how you confuse Dennis Quaid with Pierce Brosnan.
They're the same.
They're not even remotely the same. They didn't have remotely similar careers. How Dennis Quaid ever managed to marry Meg Ryan is beyond me.
And then produce an adorable yet awkward child that is Huey. So he has this like little love relationship with the newest member of the Seven, Starlight, and she's so cute. And I love their relationship because it's very like, he kind of accidentally and then accidentally on purpose gaslights her a little bit for a bit of the show, but like he's so genuine about trying to remedy that. And
Because it's very much a classic, almost like spy movie type deal with the two of them, where it's like, oh, I'm going undercover to stop these bad guys, but oh wait, I've fallen in love with one of the bad guys.
oh no, and then she doesn't know, and so stuff happens.
So
What
like
else?
before we, because it seems like we're edging into spoiler territory.
I want to talk about
Yeah,
spoilers.
before we fully jump into that, let's talk about other shows that this is like.
Oh yeah, other than like I guess Dark X-Men. I don't know. It's so unique, but it's also like very. It's playing off of.
I think if we can
Solid
if we can
tropes.
move away from just shows, I think we were talking earlier. Like there's a similar sort of dark humor element, like with Deadpool,
Yeah.
where it's
a little
very
like
gory,
Deadpool,
but
yeah.
the gore is played for laughs.
That and Deadpool has a very similar like vigilante justice thing to him. That the boys, which is like the main cast of characters who are not the Seven, that's what they call themselves. If you haven't seen the show.
So like if you like Deadpool, but you also believe that Superman can't be trusted,
He can't.
then you're definitely going to love The Boy.
Like,
If you're
I
Lex
love
Luthor,
the show.
you're going
I
to
absolutely
love
like.
The
There's a reason I
Boy.
watched it 3 times. I love the show. It catered to me perfectly because I love Deadpool and I firmly believe Superman can't be trusted. So it was absolutely perfect for me. There were so many little things all throughout the show that just like small little details in the background that that would jump out to you in the moment, and then you would forget about 5 minutes later. But when you kind of reflected on the show, you're like, man, that was so good. That was so perfect right in that timing. That just kind of tied the world together really well. That was probably my favorite thing about all of it was.
Oh yeah, the detail work in the production design is incredible. Because I was constantly finding myself just focusing on things in the background of a scene, like the Seven's headquarters. Like they've got all their movie posters from all that they've done. Like all the propaganda stuff from photo shoots just hanging around the building. I was so taken in by all of it.
And that's part of like the capitalist theme, I guess. This like capitalism will corrupt the good in the
Anything.
world when you're turning something that should be good, like a superhero, someone who works for free, into a money-making machine. Like they have movies, they have merch, and then you discover, or Starlight discovers, that even when you go on mission. I feel like we're in spoiler territory now. Even when you go on mission, the missions are staged, and then you film them, and they get on the news. So
And then,
it's more
like,
popularity.
immediately afterwards, the press have been pre-notified. They're there to interview you.
Yeah.
It's all arranged.
They pick out who's going to go on what assignments, and it's a whole...
Which is why the Deep never gets to go.
Because he's only for water-adjacent crimes.
Oh,
He's so
the
lame.
D.
He is so lame. Well, okay, for the longest time, Aquaman was also just so lame until they cast Jason Momoa. So, yeah.
So the Deep is a very complex character arc. It's weird to like him. For me. I have, like,
Yeah.
an internalized...
Yeah.
hatred of myself when I like him, because so we start off, the Deep sexually assaults Starlight. That's like the first thing he does in the show. And you're like, oh, fuck. That's bad. He's a bad person. And he is. And then he sort of has this like arc of like self-pity. I don't know what
It's a very...
I wouldn't even say it's pity. He's so pathetic. It's more of like
Yeah,
an exposure of like the people who act like this, they are just sad human beings, and he's pathetic. He's just useless the whole show. He's always screwing up. Like, I think it was,
And that is part of what I really liked about his whole storyline was the representation of the types of people who do these things. They are so not worth
They're not
anything.
big and scary and evil. They're not the big bad, even though Homelander also does
They're
these
just a
things.
useless, pathetic piece of shit.
Yeah. I feel like I definitely get, if that's what Kripke wanted, to like show us that like, hey, if you're a guy that does this to women, you're a pathetic piece of shit and nothing's ever gonna happen in your life, and you're gonna kill dolphins. Like,
Oh my god, it's
spoiler.
the dolphin... We're in the spoiler territory, Jake. Go nuts. Now you can...
He kills
I
a
know you
dolphin.
really-
Oh my god, that was such a help.
It was
Well,
an accident.
he steps on the brakes after rescuing a dolpon from SeaWorld.
And it goes flying
in
through
an
the
attempt to
windshield.
make himself relevant.
And it flies out and gets run over by... And the worst part of that whole thing is that the dolphin's hitting on him the whole time. Like, it's very clear that fish find him attractive, and he doesn't know what to do with that information. He's like, sure, yeah, later, sure, yeah, why don't we have dinner first to this dolphin? He's like, ah! And he's like, that is inappropriate.
There's a follow-up scene to it almost later on where he's like at a grocery store and he's trying to save one of the lobsters in the tank
And they
by buying
immediately
it.
murder the He's like, no, I want this one up at the front. That's my guy. Yeah, I'm gonna take him home. Yeah, to eat. Wink, wink. Not really. And then they immediately kill the lobster before giving it to him. And he's like, he just goes, like, he does this little
That sums up the
sigh.
Deep so perfectly. Like, everything he tries to do is just failure.
It's failure. It's useless. And then to the extent that he then also gets sexually assaulted, which I don't know if is like a revenge thing. I don't see it as him as a redemption
No.
arc.
No.
I don't see. At no point are the creators trying to like forgive him for what he did. If he has a redemption arc, it's going to be in season 2. So we'll see in
Yeah.
a couple weeks.
But so yeah, I think we can move away from the deep. Yeah, we pretty much covered everything we can
So-
on the deep.
Who were each of
We
you
just
guys'
gotta-
favorite characters, and what like made them your favorite character, essentially?
I mean, obviously I love Starlight because of her complexity and how she does want to be a good person, but she just doesn't know how. Because that's how I think we are in that stage in the world. Is I want to be a good person and I want to do good in the world, but I have no idea where to start.
Especially that whole idea of her having been told her whole, like, 'cause she's been in the same propaganda mill that the rest of the world has. She believes she's about to go and work in a system that will allow her to do some real good, only to pull back the curtain and realize, no, everything is shit. It's all corrupt and run by money and
fate.
fake. None of it's real. And that's basically where we are with everything right now.
Yeah, but like every
Organization and institution that we're told was designed to help people isn't actually doing that. And so I feel like we can all really relate to Starlight in that way.
And she's so real. Like, very rarely, I'm gonna go on my feminism shtick now, very rarely do we get, like, well-written female characters. Like, like, true female characters. And with her and Queen Maeve, especially all the conversations between them, I see real people. And I see real people struggling with real issues.
This is a really interesting dichotomy played between the two of them, too, because they're
Absolutely.
so different.
Yeah, and Queen Maeve's whole thing where she's, like, a closet lesbian, and she's, like, losing all of these people in her life that she wants to keep because of her relationship with Homelander and her relationship with,
The Seven.
what's the company that runs
Vought?
the Seven?
Oh, what is
Vought.
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 Yeah. And she's losing everyone in her life, so she's almost like a prophetic Starlight if Starlight doesn't do something right now, which she does.
Yeah.
I think... I know I said this earlier, my favorite is probably Frenchie. Like, if anything happened to Frenchie, I would lose my shit. Because, just, I don't know. He first gets introduced, and I expected to just not like him. I fully expected, I was like, oh, he's like some weirdo who lives in a warehouse with his crazy girlfriend, plus he's French.
He's like the weird tech guy.
Yeah.
And then, I can't put my finger on what about him is just so endearing.
Jake
He
can.
just, I don't know, he's just so cool. And I don't know, he kind of
Father
like,
tried to suffocate
he, like-
me with a Hello Kitty
Yes.
duvet.
he like warms
It's
your
the-
heart.
he just says
Yes, he just
things.
says things that you're that was so delightful.
That is
Mm-hmm.
it. It's like he'll just say things, and every time I'm like, say more things right now.
The Hello Kitty duvet line is my favorite line in the whole show. And it's gonna sound completely random out of context. Like, it makes no sense unless you know what is happening in the scene. So I don't
Then
want
it's out
to.
of context.
What?
Even then it's out of context
Yeah.
because Huey basically is having problems with his dad. Huey doesn't know how to explain to his dad what's going on. And Frenchie misconstrues this as he and his dad having a problematic and toxic relationship. When really, his dad's just like a sweet bean, he just doesn't know what to do with his life.
Mm-hmm.
And neither does Huey. And so Frenchie, in an effort to comfort him, says, "What? Like, does he give an age?"
When
or
I was
anything? He's just
when
like,
I was
"Oh."
10 years old, my father tried to smother me with a Hello Kitty duvet.
And Huey's like, "Okay." Not anything that you would expect someone to say.
It's just the detail of the Hello Kitty duvet.
It, you know,
It's like, I feel like that's very emblematic of the show's sense of humor.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. That
'Cause
it comes out of left
it wouldn't be
field.
nearly as funny if it was just a regular duvet.
No. It'd just be sad.
Jake, you had a lot to say about, like, power politics and slavery dynamics and, like, propaganda, and all of it went straight over my head.
So,
And I have no idea.
well, I majored in political science, so I love all of this, like, the political aspects of basically everything I watch. And this show really, really spoke to me, because, like, one of the main messages, we already hit on this a little bit, when you guys were talking about, like, the capitalism stuff and how it gets, like, warped to not do what it's supposed to do. And another one of the big ones that they hit on throughout the show were, like, the problems with, like, hero worship, as well as how religion is also used in that way. And there's an episode, I can't remember whether it was the 5th episode or the 6th episode.
The one where they go to...
Believe Expo?
Yes, the Believe
Yeah.
Expo one, where there's a scene where Homelander is literally standing in front of this crowd and just riling them up with all this, like, this rhetoric, essentially.
propaganda.
Yeah, it's propaganda. He's just, he's saying what he knows will get the crowd fired up and will get the crowd motivated. Based off of who he's talking to. Like, he knows how to manipulate them. He knows how to control them. And he does it, like, through their beliefs, essentially. He does it with these systems that are in place that we just accept that if someone is using this type of platform, whether it be religion, whether it be their status, whether it be their job in the government, whether it be their money, their wealth, we just accept that these individuals, when they say something or when they do something, because they have this, because they're parts of these systems, that we have to listen to them, that they know what they're talking about, that this is a good thing. So we allow themselves to be dominated, controlled, manipulated because of the system in place. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And the show is trying to basically expose all these things. Like, it looks at capitalism, it looks at religion, it looks at hero worship, and how we just kind of let ourselves be controlled by the stuff. Like, we don't even acknowledge it. It just happens, and then we move on. And most people aren't like, yeah, I want to be told what to do all the time and manipulated by everyone I talk to. But then in our everyday lives, We just accept that these things are going to happen because those are the systems we've always had, and so that's how it has to be.
And the show takes pains to note that the people who are cheering in the crowd are not stupid.
Right. Yes.
Like, it's not like, oh, these people are stupid for listening to their leaders, which is usually, like, the rhetoric that we get from that kind of thing. Is like, how could you be so stupid to listen to this? The show is very clearly pointing out, like, this guy is evil for manipulating these people.
Right. It's not the people's fault. Like, they're not stupid. They're not... There's nothing wrong with being manipulated or controlled by these systems. It affects everyone. But it's the systems themselves and the people that are using them to their advantage that's the problem.
And I think superhero media, above all, is like the most political media. At least mass media. It's the most political thing that we have that touches everybody. So it does kind of frustrate me when people are like, oh, they're making Batman political. And I'm like, Batman has been has been pro-gun control since day one. So shut the fuck up. But like this show in particular, I think takes that to a more subtle level and also makes it that much more impactful.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that just makes it so good. It's like this incredible piece of media. And I feel bad because like I was talking to Rachel earlier and I'm like, she's not going to like the show just because like it has this dark humor and it has, Ass Bomb, which we love.
The Ass Bomb is great.
More than anything, blowing up a superhero from the inside. Because what the boys have to do is like figure out how to kill superheroes, which Jake is like, that's my job.
It's the
that's what I want
dream
to do for
gig,
the rest
man.
of my life.
It's a different challenge every time. You get to stop crazy superheroes because they're all going to be crazy. It's just no downside.
Yeah. Like watching an invisible person explode from the inside. Watching this girl get run straight through and die. What are some examples of gratuitous violence in the show that you can think of? Watching the Deep get his like gills fingered was also extra disgusting for me. It wasn't as violent as anything else there, but it was so much grosser.
It was so gross.
Because gills. Gross.
Gills are pretty gross. Because it's your lungs on the outside.
Some fish would think you were weird. You have your eyes on the outside.
They're fish.
They can't control you.
You do not control lobsters.
I feel bad that... I feel like some people are going to miss out on how great the show is and the message of the show because it isn't for everyone.
Yeah.
It's for a very specific audience, but that's every show. Any show with a decent message isn't for everybody.
Yeah.
Shows that are for everybody don't have messages.
Yeah.
I think that's my controversial opinion of the week.
Jake, so you asked us who our favorite characters were. Jake, who's yours?
Well, it's probably Frenchie, but you've already taken that one. And 2, I do really love Black Noir.
Black Noir is the best character, and he's on screen maybe twice.
And he's not spoken a word.
He says 0 lines throughout the whole thing. I think he's in 4, maybe 5 scenes. I know he's in a dinner scene. I know he's in 2 different, 7 meeting scenes. And I know he has a scene.
He plays the piano.
He has that thing with Seth Rogen.
Yeah, and then he has a scene where he fights the female.
Yes.
And that's it. And he doesn't say a word. He just stands there and looks cool.
I think we should call her Cherie instead of the female.
I mean, isn't the female officially?
They refer to her as. That's probably officially her name, but it's she's Cherie because that is what or mon cher, because that's what Frenchie calls her. He's like, oh my dear.
He calls her mon coeur.
Mon coeur. He calls her both all the time. He's just always referring to her as little French nicknames, and I'm like,
my
oh
dear,
my God,
my heart,
so
my
pure.
sweet. I have this hope that in season 2, Black Noir is going to be revealed to have been an undercover agent digging, compiling dirt on the Seven.
Yeah, because the CIA is trying to get in there. Mm-hmm. This Butcher's like, CIA, give me monies to kill Homelander. And they're like, we will give you money to kill anybody but Homelander. And he's like, you're corrupt too, bitch! Oh, he's so mad.
That is something I think could be interesting, because there definitely seemed to be going in a different direction with Black Noir than he was, in the comics.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he had a very different role in the comics.
That's what I was going to ask you. Do the two of you care to elaborate on his role in the comics? Because I think that's fascinating, but I don't remember all of it.
I'll let Jake take it.
So, in the comics, he was essentially he was a clone of Homelander, designed to kill Homelander if Homelander ever, got out of control. But in the comics, Homelander, wasn't doing things that needed him to kill Homelander. So Black Noir was getting pissed. And he was like, man, I can't do my job, which is kill Homelander, until Homelander does some awful shit. So what if because I look just like Homelander. So what if I, like, dress up like Homelander and go out and do some awful shit? Then he'll get blamed for it because it's Homelander. And then I can kill him. And that's essentially what he does in the comics. And that does not even seem remotely to be what he's being used for in the show, especially especially if they're going to stick with the actor they have playing him currently, who is...
who's like a tall, gorgeous black man.
And not home.
We don't see his face in the show, but like we all looked up his IMDb. I mean, they could do something with that. I hope they give him a storyline.
Yeah.
I hope they don't just like axe one storyline to just not give him another storyline other than killing the Vietnamese girl.
Because it also just, like, it doesn't seem like that's the direction they're going to be going, because there is no doubt in anyone's minds by the end of the show that Homelander is not a good guy.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's how it should be. Like, I think that I think that is a better plot than the comic plot of he has this clone who's doing the evil stuff, because it kind of runs contradictory.
That more feels like a cop-out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's like, oh, you can trust the people, you just can't trust their evil. And then you're like, there's no evil twin in real life, so who am I supposed to trust?
Right. So apart from just favorite characters, did you guys have favorite, like, moments or episodes that we haven't hit on?
Well, not so much that we haven't hit on, but I loved basically the entirety of the Believe Expo episode.
That's what I was gonna say.
It was uncomfortable in the best way possible.
It was so uncomfortable.
There were so many great, there's a moment where it cuts to Butcher, Carl Urban's character, at the Believe Expo, just talking to one of the men at this religious convention about how much God is a cunt.
He said, "Shaky cunt." He put us through all this.
And the man is just so bewildered at everything Carl Urban is saying to him that he can't, like, he's in too much of a state of shock to try to refute any point he's making, and it's so funny.
I think for me, at the Believe Expo, it was definitely in this moment of Starlight's... she's like a panel, kind of. She's like a meet and greet with teenagers, trying to convince them to stay pure. And for me, personally, I was in the church for, like, 20 years by force. I was forced to go to 3 separate weekend-long retreats called Passport to Purity, where I sat in a chair and was told to my face that men belong with women and men should only have sex with women and vice versa, but only if they're married. And like that was the whole weekend. Was like, stay a virgin until you're married. Also don't be gay. Also don't be gay, which one of them stuck in my mind really bad. I'm gonna do a tangent real quick. One of them stuck in my mind so firmly because this woman was like, did you know that the end of an electrical plug is called the male side and the one that's on the wall is called the female side? And that means that men have to be with women because it doesn't work any other way. And I was like, what?
That is...
People named
one
that.
Of the most
Human
absurd...
beings named that thing. Why are you claiming that God came up with that?
Roundabout ways.
She was like, and that was her evidence. That was like the cornerstone of her TED Talk. Because like every prominent member of the church had like a little PowerPoint keynote speech. And I was so mad at that one lady. She almost had me. I was like excited to be there, and then she said that, and I was like, what? I'm 15, and I'm saying like, is that what?
That was the moment the ceiling shattered above you, where you were like, oh,
and Starlight,
this is a bunch of bullshit.
And Starlight has that same moment where all the teenagers are like, are you a virgin? Like, I really like this guy. Should I lose my virginity to him? And she wants to be honest with them and have an honest conversation about a healthy sexual experience. And she wants to tell them that sex isn't the end-all be-all and it shouldn't have this huge weight hanging over it. But she can't, because some guy in the corner keeps, like, giving her looks if she doesn't say she's a virgin. And this is before she reveals to the world that she was sexually assaulted by the Deep. And, like, oh my god, the handling of that in the show is also, like, funny, but it shouldn't be. Where they're like, well, like, corporate's like, well, I guess we gotta deal with this. You're gonna have to apologize, Deep. And I'm like, put his balls in a guillotine! Like, Jesus Christ! I want him to suffer, but then he's already suffering so much at his own hand that I can't wish any more suffering on him. We spend so much of the show laughing at the Deep, and I think it's good. I like that.
That was also one of my favorite episodes, but I also really liked the first one. I thought it was like a really good way to kick off it kicked off the show really well. Like when I finished the first episode, I was excited to keep watching.
Oh yeah. Just a fantastic pilot.
Yeah.
Did you guys want to talk about the danger
music?
Yes,
I will say, We would be remiss if we didn't talk about the danger music.
The danger music is where I knew I liked this show. It's like, what, 40 minutes into the first episode or something? It's like closer to the end of the episode, but not like all the way there. And so, I mean, we're spoiler zone now, so Huey is trying to...
We're well into the spoiler zone, dude.
So Huey's trying to break into the Vought headquarters to plant a bug because Carl Urban's talked him into it. And he's all nervous, he's all tense. He gets to like the security check place, and he got this danger music playing in the background, and then the alarm on the security thing goes off, and the danger music stops, and he's just like white-faced, panicked, right? And then
Yeah.
he's like, the guy's like, dude, you have to empty your pockets. So he empties his pockets, and the danger music starts going again. And then he goes through, and it's so good.
It's like the wah
Exactly.
music. It's like whatever that is, but it's like a spin-off of that, or it's like a cheap remake.
yeah.
But then it'll pause, and then every time he's like, okay, instead of like a sigh of relief, it goes, duh. It's like again in minor key.
It's
Oh,
And
good.
it
so
feels
good.
like
Good
that's
sting.
actually what's going on in his head.
It's playing in his head.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like,
They should have revisited it more, but I feel like if they had, it would have
gotten
tired.
old.
yeah.
What is the thing you are looking most forward to in season 2? Like, what do you hope they do?
Well,
I hope we see more Black Noir.
the trailer is already out.
Black Noir
The trailer
storyline.
is already out for season 2.
I know. I saw the trailer and I was like, oh shit, we have to record this because
Yeah.
it comes out on the 4th, so this podcast is going to come out on the 3rd.
But I do hope there is more
and
Black
then
Noir.
we'll talk about season 2 next week.
I very much do hope there is more Black Noir. I hope Homelander stays the same villain, the main villain, if that makes sense. Because I do know they're introducing Stormfront, and she's like really powerful and dangerous and everything, and very villainy. If you know anything about the comics, she was literally in the comics she was a man who was originally a Nazi, but that's neither here nor there. So I am hoping Homelander stays the main villain because they spent the whole first season building him up as the bad guy, right? As the
Yeah.
this horrible monster that how are we possibly going to overcome? And I hope they don't like switch it, because I don't like when the rug
Yeah.
gets pulled out from under me and now we have a different bad guy.
Or they don't like kill him too quickly either.
Yeah.
I feel like that would be equally as disappointing. I'm excited for more Huey and Annie. I only like Huey in context of dating Starlight.
I am excited to see how they're going to like explain whatever happens with her moving forward.
Oh, Butcher? Oh, you mean Starlight?
Yeah, as well as Butcher too. Yeah,
Like how Vought is
yeah,
going
how
to take
Vaught's
this.
going to handle like because it very much ends on a cliffhanger.
She's very much this like she wears like all white and yellow. She's very much this like pure character. I think it would be interesting if they did something akin to Orphan in her. So like Orphan from the is that her name?
Yes.
Yeah, Cassie.
Yeah.
So I'm like, am I getting this wrong? But yeah, where they sort of instead of becoming Batgirl, she now is like this like dark assassin. I feel like it would be really cool if we took Annie and like she gets fired from Vought, so she takes on, instead of being Starlight, she becomes a new superhero entirely, wears a mask, and she works with Huey and the boys on behalf of them. I think that would be really cool. Or she goes super stealth agent in Vought, and she like convinces them she broke up with Huey. Maybe even she tells them that she killed him, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm all on your team now, Homelander." And then she tries to like get in good with him, and then kill him. I feel like it has to be Billy who kills him.
I mean, you would think.
I would feel weird if Huey killed him.
I hope Billy's wife gets to kill him.
That would be awesome. What if Billy like beats the shit out of him, and he's like just about to go for the killing punch, and then he's like, "You got this, babe. Becca, take it."
Just pull a Ramsay Bolton. Just be like, "This isn't my life to take."
Yeah. So overall, I think we're all in agreement that overall the show is worth watching, 100%. 100%. And of course, I encourage my audience to send me strongly worded emails with their opinions, especially if you thought it was garbage. I want to hear why. I want you to tell me why, and I want to disagree with you to your face. But I love you all. Thank you for listening, and have a good night.